bersama menggapai asa, mengukir prestasi, berbagi kejayaan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Selamat pagi dan selamat datang dalam sidang Senat dan Orasi Ilmiah Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN tahun 2024.
Acara ini akan dihadiri oleh Sekretaris dan para Kepala Pusdiklat di lingkungan Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan Keuangan, Senat, jajaran direksi, dan Sivitas Akademika Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN.
Selama sidang Senat dan Orasi Ilmiah berlangsung, kami mohon partisipasi hadirin untuk mengikuti acara dengan tertib.
Sidang Senat dan Orasi Ilmiah Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN tahun 2024 segera dimulai.
Senat Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN memasuki ruang upacara.
Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Silakan duduk kembali.
Hadirin sekalian, mari kita sambut Sekretaris dan para Kepala Pusdiklat di lingkungan Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan Keuangan, jajaran direksi, dan Sivitas Akademika Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN memasuki ruang upacara.
Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Hadirin disilakan duduk kembali.
Sebuah persembahan tarian nan indah yang dipenuhi rasa hormat dan cinta. Dan demikianlah persembahan tari Sihutur Sanggul oleh Sabda Nusa Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN.
Menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Please rise.
menyanyikan Mars Kementerian Keuangan, dilanjutkan dengan Mars Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan.
Hadirin disilakan duduk kembali. Please be seated.
Pembacaan doa oleh Bapak Lutfi Mahrus SEMkom.
Kepada Bapak Lutfi Mahrus SEMkom, kami silakan. Kami silakan Bapak Lutfi Mahrus SEMKOM kembali ke tempat.
Pembukaan sidang Senat dan orasi ilmiah di Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN oleh Ketua Senat Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN, Bapak Dr. Kusmono. Sambutan Direktur Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN.
Kepada Ibu Evi Bulyani AK MBA PhD, kami silakan.
Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam kebajikan. Untuk pemahaman makroekonomi, saya meminta seluruh dosen dan mahasiswa mandatory untuk mengikuti press release APBN Ibu Menteri Keuangan. Jadi silahkan diikuti, sekali lagi untuk dosen dan mahasiswa menjadi mandatory untuk secara rutin mengikuti press conference APBN Ibu Menteri bulanan secara langsung maupun relay. Mahasiswa juga hadir, mohon Ibu Bapak dosen membimbing mahasiswa untuk secara reguler mengikuti World Economic Outlook IMF, Indonesia Economic Prospect World Bank, dan mata kuliah makroekonomi menjadi mata kuliah mandatory di seluruh prodi. Itu untuk isu perekonomian global yang tentu tidak lepas dari dinamika pengelolaan keuangan negara. Isu geopolitics dan climate change tentu harus kita include ke dalam mata kuliah yang relevan. Bagaimana geopolitics, bagaimana climate change akan memberi dampak kepada APBN dan keuangan negara. Ibu Menteri Keuangan sering mengatakan connect the dots. Kita cari dots-nya, kemudian kita yang connect di dalam kurikulum, di dalam bahan ajar. Bagaimana kebijakan yang tepat untuk merespon, untuk mengantisipasi isu-isu tadi, geopolitics, climate change, di dalam konteks pengelolaan keuangan negara. Untuk pemutakhiran kurikulum terkait dengan perkembangan teknologi, tentu perkembangan teknologi harus kita embrace sebagai suatu kesempatan. Tidak hanya di dalam kurikulum, dalam bahan ajar kita masukkan AI, kita lihat data analytics, tetapi bagaimana dalam day-to-day activities academic life kita juga dekat mengoptimalkan teknologi. Dan tema sidang Senat dan orasi ilmiah pada Natalis ke-9 hari ini adalah the ongoing effect of disruptive technologies on the role of accounting professionals. Ini sangat timely dalam konteks tadi, bagaimana kita memutakhirkan kurikulum, bagaimana kita mengimbres perkembangan teknologi dalam kurikulum. Dengan itu semua saya meminta seluruh kaprodi dan seluruh dosen yang relevan untuk benar-benar menangkap apa yang nanti disampaikan oleh narasumber kita Profesor Cummings. Dan juga saya berharap, saya meminta Ibu Bapak dosen untuk bisa menemukan ide riset, gap research dari apa yang nanti disampaikan oleh orator. Dan dalam kesempatan peringatan Natalis ke-9 PKN STAN hari ini, mari kita jadikan sebagai momentum untuk bersama-sama meningkatkan peran PKN STAN memberi manfaat yang lebih luas. Semoga kita semua diberikan kesehatan, diberikan petunjuk pertolongan Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa, untuk bersama-sama berkarya PKN STAN untuk Indonesia. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kami silakan Ibu Evi Mulyani AK MBA PhD kembali ke tempat.
Orasi ilmiah oleh Profesor Lorne Cummings.
Professor Lorne Cummings is the head of the Canberra Business School and a professor of accounting at the University of Canberra. With extensive experience spanning over 30 years in chartered accounting and senior academic leadership roles, including at Macquarie University. He specialized in higher education, interface with industry, government, and the NFP sector. He has contributed significantly to research and education in international and financial accounting. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Lorne Cummings.
Thank you very much for the lovely welcome, Evie. I'm very pleased and honoured to be here on representing the University of Canberra here in this very distinguished institution, STAN. I must say I've been visiting Indonesia for 25 years, and it never ceases to amaze me the warmth and hospitality of the Indonesian people. On behalf of the University of Canberra, we're very, very delighted to be here and very honoured to be working with STAN and partnering with you on this student outbound exchange program. I'm a professor of accounting at the University of Canberra, and we place a lot of emphasis on the training not only of our students but also employees in the public service. So this is fantastic to see that STAN has this program, the Politeknik program, in the STAN Politeknik of State Finance. So thank you once again. It's an honour to be here, and I hope to meet some of you later and also tomorrow as well. So thank you. Have we got the clicker? Is there a clicker to move that on? Do I present the? Okay, right, thank you. So today I wanted to do a presentation on the ongoing effect of disruptive technologies on the role of accounting professionals. We're living in a very dynamic era at the moment with technology, and accounting is not immune from that. So what I wanted to focus on today is information and communicative technologies and disruptive innovation, how this disrupts the professions, the key technologies that are driving that current disruption, the theory and the digital threats and opportunities, how accounting firms and how accounting is responding to that, and whether we have the necessary skills to be able to respond to that. And then a little bit on the required skill development and Gen A by an accounting. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So ICTs and disruptive innovation. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about information and communication technologies. This is similar to information technology, but it focuses primarily on communication technologies. It includes the internet, wireless technology, cell phones, and other communication mediums. And disruptive innovation is basically where this innovation underperforms an existing product and in sense comes in and disrupts the market. And it disrupts the way we do business, it disrupts how we teach. And over time, this disruption meets the future demand of customers. And it displaces existing market leaders. And so the technology change that we see in accounting that's transforming accounting at the moment will lead to a shake-up of the accounting profession. Existing market leaders will likely fall away, some will, and then there'll be opportunities for new entrants. So the existing model of accounting, in a sense, is currently being disrupted in ways at which we never have forecasted 20 years ago. However, the definition of that disruptive innovation remains vague. Next slide, please. So some examples of disruptive innovation. We see here in Indonesia, you've got the ride-sharing services, Uber, Gojek, that is disrupting the taxi industry. You've got cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, that's disrupting banks. You're seeing 3D printers disrupting the manufacturing industry. You've got web-based video, podcasting, Netflix, that's disrupting cable television and disrupting existing TV networks. You see it in accommodation. You have Airbnb, that disrupts the hotel industry. You see products such as Amazon. Now you can get everything on Amazon. That disrupts traditional business bookstores. And also how we store data. Floppy drives, we're now storing things in the cloud. And even things such as photography. The days of Kodak and the film are gone. So they're just examples of disruptive innovation. But there are much more now that we are living in an era of AI and an era of cloud and machine learning. It disrupts all professions, it disrupts all industries, and accounting is one of those. Next slide, please. So as a professor of accounting, and having been in accounting for over 30 years now, I've seen the profession transform in ways that I never would have imagined when I first started in the mid-1980s. And a PricewaterhouseCoopers publication some years ago predicted that accounting is the top of the professions facing disruption through automation. And this was prior to artificial intelligence, prior to ChatGPT. And as you can see there, 97.5% of accounting and clerks and bookkeepers are expected to have some form of automation affecting over, and this is only in Australia, 250,000 jobs. So this affects how we teach accounting. So it's not just now about basic debits and credits, it's also about teaching coding, STEM skills, science, technology, engineering and maths. So how we teach and it will change, and also we need to ensure that students in the classroom are not just learning from a textbook, but are actually practicing software, the using of software in classes. And so you can see there, after accounting clerks, there's checkout operators and then it goes down. Next slide, please. The least affected are areas such as the medical practitioners, okay? Because at the end of the day, although they are disrupted to some degree, because you do have robots these days participating in a lot of operations and etc. But you still need, in a sense, medical practitioners that are going to be assessing you in the body. So they are seen to be the least disrupted, as is education, health and welfare managers and midwives and nurses. So medicine appears to be less impacted by disruption than the accounting bodies. So that's why, for example, there's always a shortage, certainly in Australia, of medical professionals. Okay, next slide. So if you take a look, for example, over the last 200 years, what you're seeing is there's always been technological innovation. In 1784, we had what was called the first industrial revolution, and then you saw in accounting double entry bookkeeping becoming more prevalent as factories became more prominent after the Industrial Revolution. Then you had the second Industrial Revolution, which was around about 1870. And that really was the beginning of when electricity, when you had electricity that were powering factories. It wasn't less about manual operation and more about electricity. And then you had the first accounting profession, in a sense, being formed, accounting bodies. And you needed accountants to be able to understand factory divisions and factory products and processes. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, you didn't have that. Then in in 1969, it was the sort of the key period of what we call the third Industrial Revolution. In 1969 was, you saw the space race, you saw the introduction of large-scale computers, not the computers that we see today in terms of iPad and mobiles and tablets, but you certainly saw the development of computers, and then that accelerated through the 1970s and 1980s as companies like Microsoft and Apple developed their products and their hardware as well. Then you saw 1991, the beginning of the internet, and that led to another phase of technological revolution for the accounting profession. And then, of course, 2007, the smartphone. But now we're entering the fourth, we're probably 10 years into the fourth stage of the fourth industrial revolution, which is cloud-based and AI. So you're seeing now, instead of storing our data on floppy disks, it's now in the cloud. You're storing huge amounts of data. You've also got huge supercomputers. You've got now your iPhones, your mobile phones now having more power in them than the power used and the technology used to send the man to the moon in 1969. So all that power, all that knowledge, it's concentrated in one mobile device. Extraordinary. And if you take a look back at what, 20 years ago when you had the floppy disks in your computer, you now can have your little flash drives and you can store 1 million times more data than what you could back then. So the development is just in waves. And now also we're seeing now the next into the phase into the fourth industrial revolution being through AI and machine learning. And you will now also get accounting software packages. One example I'll mention later is Xero, which is a New Zealand-based company, but now where you can use your mobile phones, you don't need to type in the invoice anymore. You just scan the invoice and it automatically uploads to the cloud. Okay, the next slide. So the accounting, information communication technologies have had a significant impact on accounting in general and accounting professionals in particular, with those differing effects over those 4 industrial revolutions. Industrial Revolution 1 and 2 had small impacts on accounting professionals, as we still had paper-based ledgers, but it was more formal, more structured. You had mechanisation, you had assembly lines using electricity, as mentioned. Technology developments really kicked in Industrial Revolution stage 3 and 4. Okay, we had advent of computers, robots, automation, and now smart technology, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Next slide. So the technologies driving the current disruption are ever changing, but we see, for example, now the increase in cloud computing. You don't store your data now on devices, you're storing them in the cloud. And if you've ever been to a cloud, a server farm, Google has them, Amazon Web Services have them, Microsoft have them. They're big data warehouses and they're like big factories. And they're more secure than military bases. Okay, you need your iris scanned, and that's basically all of your internet traffic, all of your data when you upload to the cloud gets stored in these big data warehouses. And you can't just walk into them. They're secured by armed guards because that holds the world's information. It's very secure, and they're just amazing. So these cloud now, you're storing your data in the cloud. Blockchain, we've seen the emergence of blockchain over the last few years. And blockchain we tend to think of as just cryptocurrency, but they're also digital records as well. And you're seeing that transforming accounting. It's improving auditing, accounting, the storing of records on immutable chains where it's more secure and there is a reduction in big chance in the reduction in fraud. It also increases transparency. Although blockchain is largely linked at the moment to Bitcoin, but the blockchain platform itself can be used in accounting-based software. You're also seeing big data. We need to make sense now of financial and non-financial accounting data. We're generating huge amounts of data now, much more than we were 20, 30 years ago. And the capacity of the individual human being to make sense of that all is just impossible. So we need machine learning. We need AI. Every time you make a search on Google or you lodge a transaction online, that's data in some way, shape or form. So we need to make sense of that, and computers help us to do that. Cybersecurity. These days, the old days, if you wanted to steal money, you went to rob a bank. You know, you took a gun and you walked into the bank and you said, give me all the cash. You don't do that these days because no one carries cash. I don't carry cash. I haven't used cash in 3 years. It's all via your digital phone, tap and go. So how do people rob you these days? They do it online. They steal data. Okay? They hack into your systems, and they also take your data and sell it online. Right? So you hold people to ransom. And we've seen that recently in Australia, where hackers from overseas were able to hack into medical records, and then they were then making bribery claims against individuals, saying, if you don't send me money, well, I'm going to release your medical records online. So this is quite commonplace now. And this can happen with companies as well. Data in companies can be stolen, and then companies can be held to ransom. So as accountants, we need to invest in cybersecurity. And in addition to that, governments also get hacked as well. Foreign powers can tap into government and steal secrets. Artificial intelligence, and we're seeing now the growth in ChatGPT. That's affecting everything. ChatGPT, when I first started at the University of Canberra in November 2022, ChatGPT was launched that month. And then within 2 months, it was just like a firestorm all around the world. And now lots of students are using ChatGPT, and the big challenge for universities is to determine what material that students submit is of their own writing, and to what degree is it generated by artificial intelligence. So these large language processing capabilities are there. They can be a threat, but they also can be an asset. They can help us reduce mundane tasks. So these are all the current technologies driving the disruption in the current fourth industrial revolution for accounting. Next slide, please. And that's just the cloud. Okay, so we've got different desktops, laptops, phones, tablets, and all these accounting functions can be used in the cloud. Reduces all of our ability to, reduces the need for manual transactions. So now understanding accounting is not just about understanding debits and credits, it's about understanding how to use that information. So critical thinking skills. Next slide. So information and communication technology in the accounting profession, it has shaped how accounting as a profession, as an industry has operated. People say, well, it's a threat. It is a threat in some ways, but it's also an opportunity. It does affect how we as accounting professionals utilise our time. Okay? We don't need to do mundane tasks now. The computers can do that. That's good. It frees us up to do more creative, value-adding exercises. It also allows us to gain new knowledge and allows us to be able to provide more informed advice to clients. Okay? Our time is used more effectively. So we've moved from being information gatherers to information analysts. Okay? And that's why you see a lot of accounting firms these days, they don't necessarily recruit students directly from accounting degrees. They take them from other areas, from software engineering and the like. So it's about providing advice. I remember in the 1980s when I was working for chartered accounting, you had to have an accounting degree, but these days, no. When you were 1980s, you worked in auditing or tax department, there was a little bit of consulting, but these days they have assurance, they have human resources, they have actuarial work. It's very, very broad. So accounting professionals have become business professionals. Okay, we're much, much broader. So this has really provided a lot of research from an academic perspective on what is disruption. Obviously, we're constantly being disrupted, but the amount of disruption these days is very, very significant. And it's an emerging field of academic research. Next slide. One of those is disruption innovation theory, and one of my PhD students a couple of years ago completed her thesis on disruptive innovation theory in accounting. And I won't go over that slide in detail, but effectively what disruption means is that new entrants come into the market and they disrupt the market at the lower end, and they, in a sense, take away the consumer base, the customer base from existing clients. And as a provider, and this could be a big four firm, it could be a middle tier accounting firm, to be able to keep up, to be able to keep your clients, to be able to keep your employees, you've got to continually reinvest in technology, continually update your platforms. You cannot be static, because if so, then others will take your place. And we've seen that, as I mentioned before, with Trivago, for example, and we've seen it with Airbnb and the like. But the big four accounting firms have been very smart. They've been the ones actually driving a lot of AI. They invest a lot of money in products and the like. Next one. Next slide. So disruptive innovation theory provides a theoretical basis upon which to provide a deeper understanding in topics of what technology will cause disruption in the accounting domain and what firms should do to cope with this disruption. So the theory assists accounting professionals to help understand the phenomenon of ICTs replacing certain tasks undertaken by professionals and the hybridisation of IT and accounting personnel. Okay, so hybridisation is, in a sense, another buzzword that we're using. We certainly use it in how we teach, but that is the use of technology in conjunction with your advice, your face-to-face advice. So theory helps to address this gap of providing solutions to technology's disruptive impacts. At the end of the day, we have technology, but it'll still involve human judgment behind that technology, and that's important. And therefore, we've got to ensure that the students that we train, who are going to be tomorrow's employees, have those critical thinking skills, that they're not just relying solely on the outputs of technology, that they actually make sense of what that's all about. Next slide. The contributions create a foundation for advancing discipline-specific knowledge. So this disruptive innovation theory. And so what we've tried to do in accounting is to extend this disruptive innovation theory and recontextualize it in the accounting domain. So this theory, this disruptive innovation theory, helps us to help accounting professionals understand and predict potential disruptive innovations and develop strategies to manage that disruption. So in a sense, we're ahead of the game. That's what we're trying to do here. We don't want to be caught unaware because we're susceptible to change like any other profession. So the research, the emerging research, academic research in this area focuses on how technology affects accounting professionals and encourages the link between academic research and professional industry challenges. So at all times, accounting students, whether they're here at Stan or the University of Canberra, should always be undertaking research, looking at what the challenges are there for industry and the profession and helping to solve those problems. We cannot just be progressing our knowledge solely based on textbooks. Next slide. And so Sherry, who was one of my PhD students, looked at ICTs and accounting professionals, and she undertook a systematic literature review of prior studies and how information and communication technologies impacted the role of accounting professionals. Next slide. And of course, information and communication technologies affects management accounting, financial accounting, auditing and tax, and accounting education. No field or subfield of accounting is immune from disruptive innovation or information and communication technologies. Next slide. And she looked at a case study of Xero. Now, you might have heard of Xero. They're an accounting software company. And it was founded probably about 20 years ago now by Rod Drury as a New Zealand entrepreneur. And he looked at ways in which to take cloud and use accounting solutions in the cloud. And he was focusing on small to medium enterprises. So large enterprises, the big four firms and the large companies, the global multinational enterprises, they have the budget to be able to develop their own software products. Small businesses don't. So when technology disruption hits, usually the smaller companies get affected first. They don't have the funding to be able to withstand the changes or the technology developments. So they developed Xero, the software, and it was focused on small and medium book owners. And in 2018, 10 years after its foundation, it had a capitalisation of $5.5 billion. So that they're able to generate a significant amount of wealth in a decade because they helped to transform accounting and record bookkeeping for small to medium enterprises. And 10 years after the foundation, or 12 years, it had over 1.2 million subscribers. And now it's up around 7 or 8 million subscribers. It's gone global. And the technology continues to update all the time. Next slide. So what we saw in accounting, particularly on the software front, is in a sense two waves. We saw initially traditional accounting software, which you would take on a floppy disk, plug it into your computer, and it wouldn't be connected to the cloud. You would have your database system that would enter all transactions, and they've been around since the 1970s and 1980s. We've now moved to, and that it was in a sense was replaced by software as a service. And now we've got the second wave that's focusing on, it's migrated up from cloud-based accounting to include application programming interface. So this is in a sense where accounting software connects with banks and connects with other organisations. And so it's not in a sense isolated by itself, it's relying on interaction with banks, interaction with third-party built applications. So these APIs, these application programming interfaces, enable these users to connect with third-party built applications. So the technology now in accounting is not just solely based on accounting-based technology. It's actually interacting with finance technology, interacting with management technology, interacting with banks, education institutions. So it's becoming a web unto itself. And you're seeing now, an increasing focus on partnerships between organisations in terms of how they feed data to one another and two-way data sharing. And this is where the customer authorises the software company to feed it information back into the banks. So you can basically get your iPhone now, and you can go and take a photo of the receipt that automatically uploads it to the system, and you can obviously pay your bills through your tap and go on your phone, and this is all information that in the past you had to do manually from an accounting-based perspective. So banks are also able to access this accounting data, and they're able to make a more accurate assessment of risk and credit growth. And all of this feeds back into the software accounting dashboard. So now it's millions and millions of transactions on different platforms. So now it's about how do we analyse that information. It's not about us actually doing the transaction. The computer does that for us. It's how do we make sense of that information. Next slide. And Rod Drury, some time ago on Xero, made the following comment. Now that we have so much data, we processed more than $300 billion worth of transactions in the last 12 months. We can make it work for us. We can put our servers to work for small business owners so their businesses keep ticking along, even while they're sleeping. Advanced machine learning applications are driving the next wave of investment for accounting platform providers. Technology won't just collect information, it'll learn from what it stores. So AI will, in a sense, learn from itself and continually learning from itself and continually improving itself. So then we have to ask ourselves, what's the role for us? Next slide. So you're seeing here, it affecting having issues around social issues, it affects consumers, it affects industries, it affects firms, and also research and development as well. The extent to which our data is secure. That raises an issue. It's a social issue for us. For accounting professional services, it's to what extent do we use the human versus the machine to develop reports. For consumers, they have real-time access to data. Industries, when they develop these models, they have to develop either software as a service, SaaS, or platform as a service. There's also increasing mergers and acquisitions between accounting firms and tech firms. So you're seeing this a lot. The big four firms are taking over tech firms. They're not accounting firms anymore. They're professional service firms that acquire startups. And those startups are there to generate products for the big four accounting firms. And business and soft skills. Next slide. So what is it? What's the implications for our accounting profession? Richard and Daniel Susskind had a very good book some years ago termed The Future of the Professions. And they basically said that the accounting profession, not just the accounting profession, but all other professions, have had this grand bargain. They've been protected. They've enjoyed prestige and income and self-regulation over the years. And they've exchanged that for expertise, integrity, and client-side matter. But they're saying that the technology is transforming, not only it's transforming the work, but it's also transforming industries and professions, and therefore the relevance of traditional accountants, traditional actuaries are being called into question. Okay, there's been a continuing degradation of the grand bargain. The monopolies that they once held have been undermined. And again, we see this with taxi industries, we see this with hotels, we see this, and even emerging with cryptocurrency and banks. You know, will we move to cryptocurrency and we'll move away from fiat currencies? So they argue that the current professions are antiquated, opaque, and lack affordability. That technology is decentralising everything. It's not just reinforcing existing power structures, but it's actually creating new power structures. And we're even seeing this with the media. I mean, these days, I turn on the television and I think it's all a waste of time. I don't know what television is like here in Indonesia, but in Australia they have a lot of reality programs, reality TV, and it gets kind of boring. And I find myself in the evening listening to podcasting. And you get more information from podcasting than you get just turning on the TV, listening to a TV station. So that would affect the revenues of the TV companies because no one's going to watch TV if it's just boring TV programs. You can get onto YouTube and you can get all very specific topics that you want to watch. So then that's going to completely disrupt the media. And then you have your own people do their own podcasting and they become their own journalists as well. Okay, you don't need to rely on the existing media structures. So this is threatening all areas. Next slide. So they pose questions. Does information communication technology dehumanize business and life in general? Does it turn us into robots? We need to look at how artificial intelligence, machine learning, should impact professionals instead of how it will impact professionals. We should be able to control how we use AI, not let the machines control us. We're still humans, we're writing the code, we can't be the slave to AI. And you get some people out there, and Elon Musk is one good example, that raise very serious questions about AI. He has a very pessimistic view of AI, that robots can take over the world. I think that we still have the ability to be able to turn things around. We're innovating. So, to what extent do we allow artificial intelligence to replace human judgment? Remember, as accountants, one of the things that we do is we undertake professional judgment. We make professional judgments, right? And that professional judgment has got to be a human-based judgment. Accounting provides, or digital information provides the they provide the quantitative data, but we still have to make a qualitative assessment of that quantitative data. So it is not, can a machine ever exercise exercise judgment. The right question is, to what problem is judgment the solution? Why do we call upon human experts to exercise judgment? Because at the end of the day, the answer is uncertainty, but we, at the end of the day, must control our own destinies. We cannot have technology controlling us. Next slide. So how are accounting firms responding? Well, good examples there. These are the big four firms, and these are some of the technologies that they've acquired. So the big four firms have been very smart. They've moved with the times. They've been disrupted, but they've got the ability, the financial ability, to be able to buy their own expertise. And I think we as universities and education institutions also have to do that. We have to be employing people with technology skills to build our hybrid courses online, AI online. We had a debate a couple of weeks ago at the University of Canberra about chatbots. So if a student inquires, why does the student always have to ring up and speak to a lecturer if they want to have an inquiry about a course? They should be able to type that inquiry into the chatbot. The chatbot comes back with the suggested courses or the suggested units, and then if there's a need for a follow-up, then the academic can then get involved and provide further advice. Okay, so how are accounting firms responding? They're acquiring these startups. So they have the resources to buy ICT expertise, whereas SMEs rely on other software companies to develop platforms to create to their needs. Next slide. So are we ready? Are we ready as a species? Well, one measure of are we ready is the ICT Development Index. And this is an index that's developed internationally to look at, it primarily looks at countries and whether they're ready. Are they digitally ready for the transformation? And there are a number of different variables that they use. The number of fixed telephone subscriptions, the number of people holding mobile cellular telephones, the bandwidth of the internet, what percentage of households have a computer, what percentage of households have internet access, how many people use the internet, what do they use it for, wireless broadband, adult literacy rates, and how many people have the skills to be able to use that technology. Have they gone to university? Or have they gone to some form of higher education where they've been trained to use that technology? So we all use technology differently. The person in the street, the cleaner will use technology completely different than a professor would or a government official would, right? Next slide. So what you can see there, these are the ranking of countries from back to 2016 to 2017, 2023. Iceland and South Korea have a very high ICT development index. And if you've ever been to South Korea, you'll know they're very digitally turned on. They've got very high bandwidth. Everyone is plugged into computers. They've got a really high-speed internet. There's digitization everywhere. The way South Korea has transformed itself after World War II is incredible. Australia has fallen back down a little bit, but Indonesia's doing not too badly, 80.1. Bearing in mind, of course, Indonesia is a large archipelago. You've got hundreds and hundreds of islands, very disparate cultures, and so that's a completely different geographic framework to deal with in terms of the digital divide than, say, Singapore. Okay. Singapore is always high in the metrics, but Singapore is a city-state. Okay, it's not geographically dispersed. Indonesia has, like the Philippines, has different cultures at different levels of development, and so that is a challenge, I think, going forward for Indonesia. How do you ensure that all the citizens have that digitisation, have access to high-quality internet, high-quality computer devices and handheld devices to be able to access this technology? Because what you don't want is certain portions of the population being able to access that and others not being able to. Australia still faces this problem as well. Australia is a very big country. Unlike Indonesia, you have lots of islands. In Australia, you have one big continent. But we still have issues in the outback, in the rural areas where you don't have fixed line. We rely a lot on mobile data, so we rely a lot on the satellites to be able to communicate large data from the central Australia to the cities and to remote areas. So we all face our challenges. Next slide. And so this is the country standings in 2023 and some of the scores there. I won't go through them all in detail, but you can see there that Indonesia doesn't do too badly, and in fact actually exceeds a lot of the metrics regarding individuals using internet or households with access at home, and it's higher than what the benchmark is for upper middle income countries. So Indonesia's done really, really well for itself over the last few years in terms of getting that access out to a majority of its citizens. But of course, as mentioned, you're a large archipelago, so you've got a lot of coverage to a lot of islands, a lot of provinces to deal with. And that can be a challenge when each province and each rural government has different systems, has different technology systems. Next slide. So for accounting, the issue then becomes, to what degree are countries and firms ready for the ICT revolution? And this will affect the accounting profession in each country. So the accounting profession and their ability to be able to manoeuvre and interact and develop will largely depend on its ability to be able to access information and communication technologies. Which countries are best placed to capitalise on ICT for a competitive advantage? One may say, well, rich countries are because they have more funding, more wealth in which to draw on. I don't think so. I think those that are smart, digitally smart, that have innovative education programs, that embrace technology in government, they embrace technology in industry, I think they can leap over more advanced countries. What investment in resources are required for low-ranking countries to be able to cross the digital divide? Okay, and this is a challenge. The government's being able to invest in this infrastructure. And these days, it's not necessarily about putting wires under the ground. It could be about satellites. Right? Indonesia launches 6 satellites in space, and then you've got that mobile coverage. And these days, you can actually have more coverage via mobile at faster rates than you would previously via landline. Okay? So this requires a coordinated approach from government, businesses, the professions, and the education sector. We all have to work together. One sector can't do it by themselves. Okay? And it's good to see all the teaching going on here at STAN and the emphasis on technology. So Indonesia, under that report, is seen, under the Development Index, is seen as a most dynamic country with a change factor of 0.7 out of a total of 1. So it's a very high, you're a dynamic country that's changing very fast. Okay. And that's fantastic to see. Next slide. So the increasing hybridisation of accounting and ITC skills increasingly is involved in the business and in the design and management of IT systems. We need to look at the territory of accounting professionals. This hybridisation has redefined what we are as accountants. We're no longer about number crunching, about debits and credits. It's about analysis. We need to reorient how we teach our students to incorporate IT and IS knowledge, coding, programming, STEM skills should be an important part of our curriculum design. This requires critical thinking rather than process-oriented education. And in the process, we rely less on menial tasks because these become computerized. And that's good. We don't have to waste time doing menial tasks. Next slide. So these 4 boxes there, in a sense, are calls to action on each of these 4 areas, on what we can all do. So, as a profession, we need to develop in our training to become professional accountants, ICT courses and units within the professional exams. not only the professional exams to be professionally qualified, but the continuing professional development should also include ICT courses. We need courses and certifications on blockchain technology. I did a blockchain technology course last year. I must say it was a bit challenging for me because blockchain at the moment is still code-based. So if you take your mind back to computers back in the 1980s, when you wanted to operate a computer in the 1980s, the old early Apple computers, you actually had to type in DOS. The DOS, you had to give them a code. Then you had Windows 95, and Windows 95 changed everything because you were able to do everything with a mouse and it was all icon-based. I think with blockchain, it still hasn't reached that Windows 95 moment. It's still very much coding required to create a blockchain or to create a smart contract, which are used within organisations. There'll be developments in blockchain and the developments in crypto to make it more user-friendly. I don't think it's hit that threshold yet. And we need to build greater awareness for businesses and professional members as to information communication technologies. In academia, we need to focus on developing STEM and accounting for accounting students. We should be incorporating in all of our accounting units at university and at education institutions technology. Get students to use the software. Don't just get them to read the book and answer questions from a textbook. Get them to use the software. So in accounting back in University of Canberra, we use Xero in the classroom. So students are required to use Xero, and there's different aspects, there's consolidation, there's tax, there's different aspects of the software. Students are required to use it, so when they go out and they graduate, they can go to the client straight away and use the software. They don't need to retaught that. So teaching in the classroom is not just about from a textbook. Those days are gone. And development of campus-based startup incubators to encourage entrepreneurship in students so they can develop technologies. This is now becoming commonplace. Startups and incubators here in universities. Encourage your students to be entrepreneurs. Encourage them to develop products, because that's what they're going to be doing when they get out into the real world. Some of them will be employees, some of them will be entrepreneurs. For businesses, change your recruiting focus to include graduates with IT skills. Invest always in hardware and software that's keep up to date with the latest technology in accounting. And think about how you can provide new services to clients using your technology. Broaden your product offerings. How can you deploy staff more effectively and efficiently by using technology? Encourage entrepreneurship, that is people with innovation within the organisation. Help them to redefine your organisation. And from a government perspective, this requires investment in IT infrastructure across the country, satellites, mobile phone bases, mobile towers, okay? Not just for education, but for business, for everything. It's got to be a blanket coverage. Government needs to also support curriculum reviews, including technology as a requirement for accreditation of degrees. And also, not just in the higher education, but also secondary education, a greater investment and training of teachers regarding hardware and software and IT skills. Okay, so encourage ongoing professional development of your staff in the areas of blockchain and information communication technologies. Okay, next one. I'm getting close to the end now. So a 2024 report, 23-24 report by Spotlight Reporting asked the question, which software or technology are you looking to implement in 2023? And nearly half of all respondents said reporting and forecasting software, 40% practice management operation, and 36%, 1/3 of all respondents, thousands and thousands of people around the world looking at counting a software technology, looking at what software technology looking to implement, over 1/3 said automation. So over 1/3 of businesses now are looking to automate their activities using artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's already happening. in industry. This will have significant effects for the employment market, okay? So unless you're training people and training our students to help analyse and interpret automation, then you're not providing with the necessary skills. Next slide. So what should we do? One, the benefits of generative AI in accounting. Embrace the trends in AI tools. Don't see it as a threat. It's going to be here whether we like it or not. Okay? So it's sort of like, you go back to 100 years ago when they had the horse and cart, and then Henry Ford developed the automobile, and everyone said, oh, that's not going to work out. You know, well, I'm just going to stick with my horse. Well, that went by the wayside, right? You're seeing now this with EV vehicles, right? People go, I'm not going to drive an EV, I'm sticking to my petrol. Well, in 20 years' time, there'll be no petrol stations. So you have to embrace change. So we have to embrace change. We need to embrace AI. ChatGPT is something we should be working with. Yes, it's a threat, and certainly for students, they do use ChatGPT for their assignments. But that's up to us as educators is to try and catch that out. And there are software tools like Turnitin, for example. They now have an AI ChatGPT element. So that should be encouraged. We should be encouraging students to use that. But that means that we need to change our assessment methods as well. Don't just rely on them submitting an assignment. Ask them questions, more oral defences, more verbal, more one-on-one, more group assignments, more oral presentations. So the automation of repetitive tasks and improve accuracy. There's more effective time management for high-value tasks. Okay, so when you're paying your employees, you want to make sure that you're paying them and they're getting effective time management. You don't want them wasting time. Generative AI improves accuracy, it reduces errors, it allows us for real-time data, and it allows us to optimise our resources. However, there are challenges. Next slide. One is privacy, and I mentioned this before. The computer systems are only as good as the security around those computer systems and the data. So already we know that a lot of our data, a lot of our passwords, a lot of our information is already out there on the dark web. We didn't give it to the dark web. The companies that we gave our information to didn't have secure systems, and that got leaked out to the dark web. So that's why they're always saying change your passwords, right? But that's just one way. You've also got to maintain constant security over your data. That involves constant spending of money and updating of the software and the systems supporting that software. So there's issues around privacy. As I mentioned before, these days people don't go and rob banks because there's no money in the bank to rob. What they do is they steal money via computers. So there's issues around privacy. All your medical records could be put online, and that's a real issue for you. Integrity issues, legacy systems, that's a big issue. So any organisation has existing software, existing hardware, and whenever you bring in new software or hardware, the old software and the old hardware don't talk to the new software and hardware. At the University of Canberra, and I assume that in Stan it's similar, we have over 100 IT systems in our university. And each system doesn't talk to one another. You know, IT doesn't talk to finance, finance doesn't talk to enrolment, enrolment doesn't talk to procurement, and it's a nightmare. So I look forward to the day when we have one IT system that covers everything. That'd be perfect world, right? But at the moment we don't. We've got to it's got to carry forward data and transform it into a new system. So there's integration issues, there's legacy systems. But also, we can't be lazy. At the end of the day, we have this machine learning AI, it's there to help us. It provides us data. But it also requires us, it's only as good as the algorithms used to generate that data. So, and we've got to be very careful what data we're asking it to give us. This can lead to ethical issues. So it's always an issue coming back, it's always an issue regarding human judgment. Human judgment must always override automation, okay? We can never be robots, we're human beings, and that's it. The last slide. So the future of accounting. Where are we headed to? Well, there's a lot of factors here. One is ChatGPT is being used to support a wide variety of bookkeeping and accounting automation, research and education tasks. We can use that in our workforces to help us draft emails. The days of having to type an email are gone. You can speak into a microphone, or you can get ChatGPT to generate an email for you. If you need to write a report, get ChatGPT to do it first. Tell ChatGPT what you want. It'll generate you a report. Don't use that solely. You take that and you edit it, but it certainly can save you time. Artificial intelligence will lead to an increased focus on interpretation and advisory, as mentioned, and we can use AI with predictive analytics. So it's not just about analysing past data, but as we know in accounting, an important aspect of accounting is budgeting. Budgeting is looking forward. So we can use AI to help us predict the future more accurately using data from the past. Big amounts of data that we weren't able to use before. So as universities, we must embrace AI and the use of software in courses to maintain enrolments. We need to increasingly recruit staff with core skills outside of accounting. That's going to continue. And firms and organisations need to continually invest in AI technology in an era of large data sets. So then the ultimate question is, well, what are we as accountants? Are we going to become extinct? No, we won't, I think. We'll still be there. But the accountant of 2050 will be different than the accountant of 2023, 2024. And the accountant today is a lot different than it was in the 1950s. Right? So our grandkids, when they're going to be doing accounting, they're going to be doing things that we wouldn't have thought of. And that's because accounting is a social science. It's not a physical science, it's a social science. It changes with the laws and with what society needs. So will the accountant become extinct? No. But there will be a redefinition of roles, and that's our responsibility, to choose what we want. Where do we want technology to take us? Do we want technology to take over us, or do we want to control the narrative? And it should be about us controlling the narrative. So without that, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Terima kasih kepada Profesor Lorne Cumming. Selanjutnya, penyerahan cindera mata.
Thank you, Professor Lauren Cummings. And please remain in front of the stage as we would like to present our token of appreciation.
Selanjutnya, kami mengundang Direktur Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN, Ibu Evi Mulyani.
We would like to invite the Director of Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN, Mrs. Evi Mulyani.
Sesi penyerahan cindera mata. Kami silakan para kepala pusdiklat di lingkungan Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan Keuangan, Senat, jajaran direksi, dan sivitas akademika Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama.
silakan para Kepala Pusdiklat di lingkungan Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan Keuangan, Senat, jajaran direksi, dan sivitas akademika Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN kembali ke tempat. Dalam panggung gemilang, cahaya kan bersinar. Kami merayakan insan-insan cemerlang dengan semangat berkobar.
Dan inilah awarding Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara STAN.
Idris, Lutfi, Hairi, Nur Hadi, Pujiyanto.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Kemahasiswaan
Kepada Bapak Budi Waluyo PhD, kami silakan.
Kami mohon Bapak Budi Waluyo untuk tetap berada di depan. Dan kami persilakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk kembali ke tempat. Kategori CS Teladan,
Asmi Nabila, Hufron Yulianto, Abdurrahman, Santo, Rusmin.
kami silakan kepada peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Kemahasiswaan.
Kepada Bapak Budi Waluyo PhD, kami silakan. Kami silakan Bapak Budi Waluyo dan para peraih penghargaan kembali ke tempat.
PPNPN Staf Administrasi dengan Kinerja Terbaik 2024.
Wartika Linda Andiani Sapitri, Kurniawan, Rosita Hawa, Hedi Farijal.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Keuangan dan Umum
Kepada Bapak Dr. Agus Sudarya Sulaiman SST AK MSI, kami silakan.
PNS dengan Kinerja Terbaik 2024.
Galuh Dwi Cahyani, Siti Habida, Yogi Firmansyah, Davasta Aranta Hartandi,
Aktif Sabila.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Keuangan dan Umum
Kepada Bapak Dr. Agus Sudarya Sulaiman SST AKMSI, kami silakan.
Dosen dengan kinerja dan kedisiplinan terbaik 2024.
Aditya Subur Purwana, Nur Farida Liana, Nur Indah Lestari, Arifah Fibri Andriani, Dian Handayani.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Keuangan dan Umum
Kepada Bapak Dr. Agus Sudarya Sulaiman SST AKMSI, kami silakan. Kami silakan Bapak Dr. Agus Sudarya Sulaiman SST AKMSI beserta para peraih penghargaan kembali ke tempat.
Selanjutnya, dosen dengan kinerja terbaik 2024 dalam bidang partisipasi layanan BLU,
Oke Wibowo, Pratin, Rohmat Taufik Hidayat, Ki Gede Komang Cahya Bayu Antakusuma, Askolani.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Akademik
Kepada Bapak Dr. Agus Bandiono SEMSI MAK, kami silakan.
dosen dengan kinerja terbaik 2024 dalam bidang partisipasi kegiatan mahasiswa,
Andri Marfiana, Lutfi Mahrus, Ragil Kuncoro, Yanuar Pribadi, Nur Aisyah Kustiani.
kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Wakil Direktur Bidang Akademik
Kepada Bapak Dr. Agus Bandiono SEMSI MAK, kami silakan.
Kategori dosen dengan kinerja terbaik 2024 dalam bidang pengabdian masyarakat.
Taufik Raharjo, Rahayu Kusumawati, Sony Hartono, Sopian, Irwan Suliantoro.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Kepala Pusdiklat Bea dan Cukai kepada Bapak Untarto Wibowo. Kami silakan. Dosen dengan kinerja terbaik dalam bidang penelitian.
Ahmad Solikin, Mas Ruri Muhtar, Diah Purwanti, Agung Dinarjito, Ali Tafriji Biswa.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Kepala Pusdiklat Bea dan Cukai kepada Bapak Untarto Wibowo. Kami silakan. Dosen dengan kinerja terbaik dalam bidang administrasi pembelajaran.
Himawan Yusuf, Teguh Warsito, Nur Hidayati, Nina Andriana, Indra Asmadewa.
Kami silakan kepada para peraih penghargaan untuk ke depan. Penyerahan penghargaan oleh Direktur Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan kepada Ibu Evi Mulyani AKMBA PhD. Kami silakan.
Kami silakan Ibu Evi Mulyani AKMBA PhD beserta para peraih penghargaan kembali ke tempat.
Selanjutnya, kami persembahkan penampilan Voka Wardana. Penutupan sidang Senat dan orasi ilmiah di Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan oleh Ketua Senat Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan, Bapak Dr. Kusmono.
Dengan mengucapkan Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin, sidang Senat terbuka Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan secara resmi ditutup.
Kepala Pusdiklat Bea dan Cukai, jajaran direksi dan sivitas akademika Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan berkenan meninggalkan ruang upacara.
Hadirin dimohon berdiri.
Senat Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan meninggalkan ruang upacara.
Hadirin disilakan duduk kembali.
Hadirin yang kami hormati, selesai sudah rangkaian sidang Senat dan orasi ilmiah di Natalis ke-9 Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan tahun 2024.
Selamat siang. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jayalah Politeknik Keuangan Negara Stan.